A new National Guard force to react to incidents of civil unrest is being considered by Donald Trump. You can see it already happening. Los Angeles, for example, now Washington, D.C., and he's talking about doing it in 5 additional states already. The Washington Post alleges that unreleased documents propose a new, quote, domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force. And this appears to follow the model he's using already in other areas, like the one he used to put down the riots in Los Angeles, the new anti-crime forces in Washington, D.C., all of this, right? Let me show you what the Washington Post said. They said this. The Trump administration is evaluating plans that would establish a, quote, domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force, kind of like your special forces National Guard deployed to go put down a riot or something. It says composed of hundreds of National Guard troops tasked with rapidly deploying into American cities facing protests or other unrest, according to an internal Pentagon document reviewed by the Washington Post. It says this. The plan calls for 600 troops to be on standby at all times so they can deploy in as little as 1 hour. Now, 600 troops is not enough to put down a nationwide riot or something like that. You'd probably need a few hundred just to deal with one riot. In fact, if we look at the model for Los Angeles. But of course, this seems to be if you have a large incident of some kind and also deployed very quickly. The ability to do this means that you probably have groups throughout the United States because 1 hour response time, you would need to be relatively close, even by flight. This does appear to be some kind of nationwide effort. Now, they note as well they would be split into 2 groups of 300 and stationed at military bases in Alabama and Arizona, with purview of regions east and west of the Mississippi River, respectively. Cost projections outlined in the document indicate that such a mission, if the proposal is adopted, could stretch into the hundreds of millions of dollars, should military aircraft and aircrews also be required to be ready around the clock. We'll see. Look, they already it's the military. They already have these things on standby typically. And it said troop transports via commercial airlines would be less expensive, the documents say, which, they're doing too, especially with the deportation efforts. They've already commissioned a lot of civilian aircraft. It says the proposal, which has not been previously reported, represents another potential expansion of President Donald Trump's willingness to employ the armed forces on American soil. Okay, let's step back. Trump's willingness to employ the armed forces on American soil. How many of you remember when, during the COVID lockdowns, National Guard was marching down the street and shooting people with pepper balls if they stepped outside their houses during the lockdowns? I seem to recall that. How many of you remember during the Biden inauguration when they surround the Capitol building with concertina wire and giant fencing and deployed the National Guard in Washington, D.C.? Gee, I remember this. How many of you remember that a lot of these same individuals deployed the National Guard for civil unrest? I remember it. They're making it seem like only one side does it and like we've never seen it before. It's a total misrepresentation of facts, frankly. But remember, the big issue now is Trump is using it for law enforcement. That's kind of the difference here, right? They say this as well. They say it relies on a section of U.S. code that allows the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, to circumvent limitations on the military's use within the United States. What is that? If you are in the National Guard, you probably know about it because this is not a new thing. The National Guard can be deployed by the President, bypassing the authorization, of course, of even local governments, can be deployed to protect federal buildings and federal officers. Meaning, for example, if ICE agents are out carrying out deportation efforts, they feel they're under threat, they can legally deploy the National Guard to protect the ICE agents. If a federal government building, like a courthouse, for example, is under attack, if other federal buildings are under attack, if they even just allege it is, they can deploy the National Guard to protect that building. They cannot use them as basically all-around law enforcement. Their job can be to protect federal assets. But if they want to bypass the thing and have them actually carry out law enforcement, then it's a little more tricky. Then they actually need, to an extent, approval from the local government. The exception being in Washington, D.C., which has a special status under the United States. Because, again, Washington, D.C. is the nation's capital. Trump can actually use National Guard for law enforcement there, bypassing local government. Even Muriel Bowser has noted this, by the way.